Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. In today's video we have updates for The Mandalorian Season 3, Star Wars Ahsoka and the Andor series. So without much further ado and without any more jibber jabber, let's dive straight into it. So we begin with The Mandalorian Season 3 because it appears as though additional filming for the series is underway. Now filming finished about 2 or 3 months ago and the Ahsoka series went into production. But there are now clues that additional filming with Pedro Pascal, Katee Sackhoff and Giancarlo Esposito is taking place, so let's dive into it. Just a few days ago, Bo-Katan Kreese actress Katee Sackhoff posted an apology to her Instagram account as she was unable to make it to the Fan Expo in Denver due to work commitments, and within the video she gives a major hint as to what exactly she's working on. In the video, Sackhoff said, "I ended up working much later than anticipated on a little show that we all know and love, and it made it quite difficult for me to get myself to the convention in time," and she signs off the video by saying this is the way, so a very strong hint it's for The Mandalorian. Now Bespin Bulletins say that all the way back in March, they heard there were plans for additional filming on Season 3, which could mean pickups or reshoots, but it could also be for scenes they were unable to film at the time. When they were told about additional filming for the series, they expected it to be around July or August, and Katee Sackhoff's comments back this up. It's also believed a major reason for this additional filming is Pedro Pascal. Some people are saying he was not able to film any scenes during principal photography, they just used the stand-ins, body doubles and stuntmen. Pedro Pascal was busy filming The Last of Us for HBO, and even though he did have a break in the early months of this year, it's only now that he's filming his scenes for The Mandalorian Season 3, which basically means these are the scenes where he's going to be helmetless. Now, it's also worth noting that Giancarlo Esposito, all the way back in April, did an interview with The Rich Eisen Show, and when he was asked about the 3rd season of The Mandalorian, Giancarlo said, "I've got a little few things to do in regards to that, to put a few finishing touches on what I do," and he might have been talking about additional scenes and reshoots that are apparently now taking place. And inevitably there will be some people who take this to mean that the show's in trouble or that there are issues with Pedro Pascal, but that is not the case. It's simply a matter of scheduling, and this additional filming was likely always in the cards. Super excited for Season 3, and that releases in February of 2023, and following that, we have the Ahsoka show. And we do have an update for that series too, my dear friends, because Rosario Dawson, who plays Ahsoka Tano, and Natasha Bordizzo, who's playing Sabine Wren in live action, have come out and spoken about the show. In an interview with Empire magazine, which releases tomorrow, Rosario and Natasha commented on what fans can expect. Dawson, in particular, noted how in her 2 live action appearances so far, The Mandalorian Season 2 and The Book of Boba Fett, fans haven't got much of her as a character, and that quote, "Even fans who've lived with her for so long don't know where she's at now in this journey." Here is the full quote. "Dave and John are continuing Star Wars in a way where it can be a standalone, but it also makes you hungry for more. There have been 2 instances where Ahsoka's shown up on a mission. You see how she's interacting with folks, but you don't really get her per se." And she's right, in Star Wars Rebels and the Clone Wars, we had much more of a focal lens on Ahsoka, but in The Mandalorian Season 2 and The Book of Boba Fett to an even larger extent, she was a supporting character. So now in her own spin-off series, Star Wars Ahsoka, we're really going to see where she's at, both personally and also in terms of her journey in the Force. I mean, we still don't know what the symbolism of Ahsoka the White is. What do those white robes symbolize? Is she going to eventually return to the ways of the Jedi, or has she embraced a sort of neutrality? And then Natasha, who's playing Sabine Wren, added how her character is, quote, "fearless and brave," and she also teased that the series is going to have very high stakes. This is what she said: "Sabine is so fearless and brave with so much grace, but she still has flaws. She's not perfect, she's on her journey, she's making mistakes." And it's very high stakes in this galactic war to make mistakes. And as Rebels fans, we know this about her character. And probably the highest stake of all is finding Thrawn and Ezra. And then Natasha says something which has got a lot of fans confused, but we're going to break it down. A lot of people have not seen Rebels. It's great for them to have seen it, but we've got a standalone chapter as it is. Now, online I've seen a few folks say that this should be the Rebels sequel, and so watching the animated series is mandatory. And while I agree with the sentiment and what they're saying, we have to realise that profitability-wise, Lucasfilm have to make this show accessible to all audiences. There are plenty of fans coming into this show who've only seen the movies and The Mandalorian, and they might not know who Thrawn is, or Sabine, the Ghost Crew, and so on. So the show has the responsibility of getting everyone up to speed, maybe by giving a brief summary of the end of Rebels, and maybe have Ahsoka and Sabine in a few lines explain what's going on, and that way those who are not familiar with Rebels are up to speed. If you have seen Rebels, it's going to enhance the experience, but Natasha Lee was saying it's not compulsory, and Lucasfilm were always going to have to do that, and it's similar to how not all Star Wars Rebels fans read Timothy Zahn in advance, and yet the show explains quite well who Thrawn is, and the same is going to be true in the Ahsoka series. They're going to explain things from Star Wars Rebels for fans who've not seen the show. And so finally, my dear friends, a tidbit for Star Wars Andor. We've been speaking about this in depth over the last few days, but now Empire magazine have released a new photo with Mon Mothma and what looks to be an antiques dealer. In yesterday's video, I spoke about Mon Mothma in depth, so go and check that out if you've not done so, but in this photo, there are quite a few Easter eggs. On the right hand side, we have a Twi'lek Calicori, similar to the one that Hera Syndulla had in Rebels. These are revered heirlooms passed down from parent to child in Twi'lek generations. According to traditions, each parent of a certain Twi'lek lineage made additions to the family artwork to include themselves in that legacy. Next up guys, just behind Mon Mothma, we see a Wookiee warrior helmet from Kashyyyk. And finally, behind the antiques dealer, we see Mandalorian armor very similar to the one that Din Djarin has. Could it be from a Mandalorian of the Children of the Watch? It's far too early in the timeline for it to be linked to Mando directly, but it's a neat Easter egg, and I wonder if it's going to have any significance in the show itself. Now, accompanying this photo in Empire magazine, we do have a quote. Let's take a look. Andor's story is intertwined with that of Mon Mothma, the legendary rebel leader from the original trilogy, who returned in Rogue One, played by Genevieve O'Reilly. She was previously cast in the role for Revenge of the Sith, but had the majority of her scenes cut. Mon Mothma's arc in Andor is going to span 5 years, and then this is what Genevieve O'Reilly says in her own words. In Rogue One, she's a leader of the rebellion. When we start Andor, she's steeped in Empire. Mon Mothma has a long, complicated involvement with the Galactic Senate, which sees her wrestling with autocracy while trying to implement change from within. That's where we start, says Genevieve O'Reilly. Now we know she fails, and that's exciting. It all adds up to a show aiming to dig deeper into the dirt of the Star Wars universe than any story that's come before it. And then Tony Gilroy says, if Star Wars is a very successful hotel or restaurant, we're in the kitchen. We've got 1,500 pages of script to tell that story, so we've got a lot of things to say and we explore pretty deeply, so strap in for one ambitious incoming square meal. And as I've said before guys, I've got so much faith in this guy. I hand on heart believe that he's going to give us the most refreshing Star Wars story that we've had in years. And it's so great to see that slowly but surely a lot of fans are getting on board the Andor hype train. I'm sure when it begins, it's going to attract a lot of folks just based on word of mouth alone. So there you have it guys, and with that said, that brings us to the end of today's Star Wars news update. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, share your thoughts down below. If you've not done so already, please be sure to hit that big red subscribe button, give that bell a good old tickle, and I'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you always. I'm Star Wars Meg, have a good one.